our ambition is however many years you're going to live to, if we can keep you healthy to the last day, and then you just go.
1 in 9 adults over 65 are living with Alzheimer's or dementia.
How much time have you spent exercising your brain?
You guys are underselling this. We're sort of told to get X number of minutes of cardio and X number of minutes of strength. But what you're telling me, if you've ever heard of Shrek, The Lion King, or Beauty and the Beast, you're going to recognize this next guest. Usually I'm interviewing scientists, but today I have one of the top Hollywood moguls whose next production is, believe it or not, longevity, coming on to unleash a few secrets. He's starting a brand new business with a young entrepreneur named Chris Wharton, but he not only reveals what this new business is going to do to add to the body of knowledge to help us all live longer, he gave us some incredible secrets I've never heard anyplace else. The power of partnership, probably the best life hack I've heard. And Jeffrey Katzenberg has created fantastic partnerships, not only in his business life, but also in his personal life. But he also gave me arguably one of the best pieces of advice for finding purpose in everyday life, something that has fueled him for 74 years of success, health, and even, I would say, vitality. Listen in. You won't regret it. Just to give a little bit of context, I'll tell you a little bit about what I do, and then it'll give some more context in our conversation. So about 20 years ago, in an effort to, in a sense, reverse engineer longevity, I, instead of looking in test tubes or petri dishes, I worked with a team of demographers and identify these 5 areas where people are living manifestly longest. And these are places that, in some places, have the highest centenarian concentration, but that's not so interesting because making it to 100 is mostly, right now, is mostly a genetic. You won the genetic lottery. But what makes these blue zones extraordinary is they tend to have the lowest rate of middle-age mortality. In other words, guys our age, or people our age, are living about 10 years longer in full health than the average American, even the average wealthy American. So we identified Okinawa, Japan, Sardinia, Italy, longest lived men, Ikaria, Greece, island of 10,000 people where there's no discernible dementia, about 8 extra years of life expectancy. The Nicoya Peninsula of Costa Rica, which was basically an underdeveloped world in the 1970s, now has the lowest rate of middle-age mortality. People have about a 2.5-fold better chance of reaching a healthy age 95 than we do in America. And then among the Seventh-day Adventists, a group of conservative Christians living about 7 years longer. So the idea was to look for the correlates or the common denominators as a way to look for insights on what we might ought to do to live longer. And I found that most of what we think leads to healthy longevity is misguided or completely wrong, or at least most of what's marketed to us. So I tend to be a bit of a disruptor in the space. And I try to couch everything I say in an evidence-based point of view, but it often flies directly in contrary to what, for example, Peter Attia might say. And I think it spawns sort of healthy debate in service of getting a clear idea or offering a clear idea. So,
well, I mean, the thing that's interesting about this, Dan, is the reason that we reached out to you is we actually share much more in common in terms of sort of the thesis of how we look at, health span versus lifespan. And in particular, the science. And the thing that is foundational to what we've set out to do, and we're right at the beginning of the beginning, so you've forgotten more than we know, just so we're clear. But our ambition was to bring together the greatest research scientists from around the globe, very specifically in the various domains of health. So our process is if you look at longevity. So longevity is a big word, and it's an umbrella.
Yes.
And underneath that are, several dozens at least, very specific verticals that are, whether it's bone density or skin or, metabolic, we can go on and on and on into, these domains. In each of those domains around the globe, there are scientists who have dedicated their life to actually going super deep and to understand and to study and to build data around this. And so our idea, really Chris's, was let's go see if we can pull together the greatest group of scientists, each one who's the Michael Jordan in their domain.
What a great analogy.
And offer them a resource that they mostly don't have today. So there's a very specific value for them, and bring them together into a single place of excellence around health span. And the last thing I say, and then, let's pass the mic,
keep going.
is that there's so much work that's gone on into disease detection, disease treatments. We don't do that. And that is not our lane. Our ambition is however many years you're going to live to, whether it's 75 or 80 or 90 or 100, if we can keep you healthy to the last day, and then you just go.
That's the way you want to go.
Yeah.
There you go. That's our ambition.
Ideally in bed after sex.
Yes. Whatever.
I love this for a number of reasons. First of all, I live in Miami, which is full of these anti-aging clinics that are very long on diagnostics. You pay $100,000 a year, and you're coming in for these tests, and then sure, this shows all kinds of things to worry about here and areas where you're healthy. But then on the actual prescriptive, it all boils down to get more sleep, eat better, and get physical activity. And I think the hubris of thinking there's a pill or a supplement that's going to anti-age us is absurd.
Never happening.
We have 40 trillion cells in our body. Our hearts can go bad. Our arteries could harden. Our brains atrophy. Our skin wrinkles. Our cartilage goes. There's so many systems that
every
work.
one of those happening to me in real time. I'm going, wow. Did you share my medical records with it?
Well.
We're going to speed up the film so people can see it. But let's go out before we go in. So you guys have this innovative approach, WndrHLTH. Let's get it out there. I love it. I love the idea that there's 34 domains, that we're not over-indexing, trying to figure out what's wrong with people, but really trying to figure out how to fix these common areas. But in general, if you want to add healthy years, if you're speaking to the average American or the type of American who's likely to be interested in becoming part of WndrHLTH, what are the ingredients to the recipe?
Look, I think we have to be careful not to create these blanket recommendations to people. I think actually that's kind of the problem that we face, is that we have one or a handful of people finding evidence for things they believe in and then giving these very broad statements about what individuals should be doing. I think the N of one approach should be to get this very broad, very precise and granular data to do some deep phenotyping on an individual, to understand their baseline, right? Because we have, as Jeffrey mentions, these 34 separate domains that we know impact length and quality of life in some degree, right? And so we need to be able to create enough precise and granular data to then build this roadmap that is specific for an individual. Because what works for me doesn't necessarily work for you. And we know that there are some broad majors, we call them: nutrition, exercise, sleep, human connection. Yeah. We know they all impact us in a myriad of ways. The actual question we need to answer is, how do they impact me as an individual? And without that granular baseline data, we are approaching this with a sledgehammer rather than a scalpel.
Yes.
Like, and we know how to improve some of these metrics. So what we did was, we brought together these scientists, and these are really the best of the best, right?
Can you name names?
I can name all of them. Yeah, I've got them all written down right here.
Tell me your favorites.
I can't give you one favorite. There's 64 of them now.
All right.
But collectively, they lead.
Pick an area. Pick an area in particular, whether you sleep or nutrition or.
Who's your nutrition guy?
Dariush Motsafarian. Or one
oh,
of them.
Yeah. We know former Tufts.
Louise Burke, yeah.
He's a great
Or
guy.
Gene Bowman at Harvard. We've ended up going a bit overboard because choosing who the world's best anything is subjective, right? But we needed to.
Than most.
Yeah. So
I just want to say, he named 3 names, all of which you go, oh, that's legit.
No. Yeah.
I mean, look, collectively,
anointed.
They run over 30 of the leading longevity labs at major academic institutions. They've got 8,000 papers on aging research. I'd say between all of them, there's over 1,000 years worth of research experience on aging and human performance. These are the best of the best in their areas.
I'm going to push you here a little bit, Chris, because so most people listening right now, they hear, Chris and Jeffrey are going to be here, and you guys, you sit at the mountain of all this great research, but to the average person listening here in Iowa or New Jersey or Oregon, what's your general advice to living longer? Then I want to get down to.
So rather than advice, we need to tell you what the mission of WndrHLTH is.
Okay.
Right. So it's right now what we're trying to do, and as I said, we're new, but by bringing these world-class scientists together with the very, very best state-of-the-art tests and testing equipment, and the knowledge and metrics that they've already built around this, the ambition for us is actually to find outcomes that can be popularized. So for the people that are listening here, this research lab is not built for a bunch of super high-end people that can pay $100,000 a year for it. That's not the objective at all. We're not a retailer. Mm-hmm. We are about finding outcomes and to discover new things that are science-based that will actually be able to be available to tens of millions, not to thousands.
I love that.
That's the goal here in it. And so the sort of state-of-the-art lab is actually it's a foundation and it's a beginning. And the goal here is to actually come up with these broadly applicable things that we can say to the people that are listening today. Here's one for you. How much time have you spent exercising your brain?
I don't think people think about that.
Okay, well, it's 35% or more of when you think about aging. And then the things that we have to deal with, I don't remember that things quite the way I used to. There's, I forgot that, or, I noticed that I'm not as focused as well, guess what? Nobody is spending any time exercising your brain.
Meaning reading or puzzles or...
I'll let him talk.
I think cognition is a great example of something that is wildly important to all of us, but wildly untested, right? Like how many tests have we done to measure our executive function or our working memory or our reaction time or peripheral vision? We don't do these.
Pretend I'm a 12-year-old and tell me what exactly you mean by this brain exercise or cognitive function.
Yeah, so we know now that 1 in 9 adults over 65 are living with Alzheimer's or dementia. Right? We know 1 in 3 over 85 are. It's killing more people than prostate and breast cancer combined. Right, and so we have this myriad of information on how to improve our physiology, our physical health, our lean tissue mass, our body composition. But no one's really talking about cognitive health. And that's because it's very early science, right? We have people on our board like Rudy Tanzi is a great example out of Harvard who discovered the Alzheimer's gene. Right? Rudy is now working on several different interventions, hardwares, tools that we can ultimately democratize to help people to optimize their brain health.
But can you give us a sneak peek of what do you mean by exercising your brain?
Yes.
How does one actually do brain burpees or whatever?
Brain burpees, that's what the business should be called.
It's yours.
Yeah.
That's better than WndrHLTH, brain burpees.
Yeah, so there's a great tool that Rudy developed with a scientist called Sean Patel, both out of Harvard, called React Neuro, which is a selection of different tests that are aimed to measure our brain function effectively. And this is a relatively inexpensive piece of hardware, which
it's
a VR headset.
Yeah, VR headset, and a set of interactive things that you are doing to where you're actually having data come in and you're reacting to it physically. And that actually is an exercise for your brain. It's actually kind of fun. It's a little bit like playing a video game.
Yeah.
Right? But it has that
like that Shrek video game.
It has that familiarity to it. But this is actually, and you should talk about, we have a particular person and this is new, so let's be really clear. We're at the beginning here. But you should talk about the one person that you've actually done some work with on this anonymously.
Well, we've done it with a number of members. Now, who specifically are you thinking about?
One who had
it's
an improvement.
Big name.
Yeah, we'll say we've got a number of
we'll just pick anybody.
Yeah, very well known CEOs, founders, celebrities who are going through this process and have gone from like level 1 on this React headset up to level 5, like the same as an NFL player might be in terms of like peripheral vision and reaction time and multiple object capture, all metrics that we know influence
which they weren't
our brain
before
health.
They started doing these exercises. Now, just to tell you, when you say exercises, it's 6 minutes twice a week.
There we go. Now we're getting it. Yeah.
Okay. 6 minutes twice a week.
It's not a big investment.
You put a headset on and you actually go through this series of exercises, tests, or whatever you want to call it, games in which you're actually doing responsive things that are
it's very specific to like specific areas of the brain. So we have to remove all of the guesswork and ground this in actual evidence, right? And so then we layer over, Gene Bowman out of Harvard also is working on building neuroprotective diets and these biomarkers that will measure specific metrics in your panel that will then determine certain areas of our nutrition that we can optimize to protect our cognition. Like if we let Dragana Ruja, also out of Harvard, developing a blood plasma assay and these stress indexes to measure how sleep deprivation or chronobiology is impacting brain health. If we layer over all of these very deep dive areas of science, then we can ultimately create this sort of closed loop system where we can determine, which of these tests, technologies, hardwares ultimately can become scalable and affordable, so that we can access them and improve the mental health, cognitive health of the population rather than a handful of people.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. I am a journalist and I'm used to talking to a lot of people when I'm working out some sort of a problem. And when it's a personal problem, I end up calling 6 people and I often get 6 different opinions. And I'll tell you, there's something Mark Twain once said: the difference between the lightning bug and lightning is the difference between the word and the right word. BetterHelp has real licensed therapists to help you make sure you get the right word, if you know what I mean. BetterHelp has been helping people find their match for over 10 years, and they have a 4.9 rating out of 1.7 million client session reviews. So these are real licensed therapists who are helping you get through your problems. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a variety of expertise. Find the one with BetterHelp. Remember, the difference between the word and the right word. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/livebetterlonger. That's betterhelp.com/livebetterlonger. So I hold 3 world records for biking across 5 continents, but I can honestly tell you my single best week of cycling was with Divine Cycling and Adventure Company. We took a glorious trip across Sardinia. They had 3 guides that kept the bikes going. They were great tour guides. They were great chefs. They knew the history of the place. One guy was an expert on wine. By the way, nobody was ever for want of wine, and they knew the best terroir. They knew where to get the best food. We woke up in the morning. We had pimpin' bicycles that were ready to go, a fantastic breakfast. We went on somewhere between 50 and 70 miles a day of exquisite riding. They curated the course. They found a great place for lunch, and we always ended with a great dinner. It was just the best mix of physical activity, actually experiencing a place, not just traveling to it, but experiencing a place, and then emerging from the experience with new friends, new knowledge, and better conditioning. So it's called Duvine Cycling and Adventure Company. It's $150 off per person when you book your first Duvine tour. That's DUVINE.com/live better longer. And we'll see you when you're 100. Hi, it's Dan Buettner. I've spent my career studying the healthiest, longest lived people on earth, the people of the blue zones. And a key theme I found is that their longevity isn't about extreme diets or punishing workouts. It's about setting up the right environment and having your unconscious choices be slightly better over time. The same principle applies to our dogs. What if you could give your best friend a healthier, longer life with one simple daily change? That's why I'm excited about GetJoy's freeze-dried raw dog food. It's a clean, simple, whole food diet, no fillers, no artificial ingredients, just 100% real USDA-sourced ingredients packed with gut-healthy probiotics and prebiotics. And the best part, it's effortless. Just scoop and serve. No thawing, no prep. It's real food that fits your real life. When your dog is eating better, you'll see it in their energy, their shiny coat, and their overall vitality. Give your dog the gift of a healthier, more joyful life. And to get you started, GetJoy has a special offer for my listeners. You can save 30% on your first order, plus receive a free scoop and a free bag of treats, $33 value, at getjoyfood.com/DanB. You guys are enormously talented and successful. I know you've had other businesses, Chris, and Jeffrey, your Hollywood pedigree speaks for itself. Why longevity? Why is that all of a sudden such a big topic? I've been in it for 20 years, and I was like, sort of the Pee Wee Herman of scientists. All of a sudden, people want to talk to me. But what is it about longevity that is attracting the attention of billionaires and venture capital?
People have been looking for the fountain of youth forever. Like that's not it. It may seem new, but it's not. This has been around as long as mankind has been around in this, and I think that for WndrCo, for us, we look for change the world investment opportunities, things that could be applicable on a very, very global scale. And I think we've seen over the last decade or so too, the area of health and longevity just keeps getting more and more. Well, our lifespan is, in fact, as you know, getting longer because we are the science of medicine keeps getting better, right? And so there are.
I'll tell you something interesting, though. I'm actually writing another book for National Geographic on this. Life expectancy is indeed growing, but it's slowed down since 1990. And life expectancy in the developed world now is essentially getting us more older people who are sicker for longer,
Nice.
Yep.
which are not only bankrupting our economies, but also producing millions of life years of morbidity. So right now, and this is why I'm hoping, what you guys are doing, right now, longevity is not getting us what we want. Because Jeff, when you came in.
That's why it's an opportunity.
Yeah, but you also put out happiness and the importance of living a life that is rich and full and satisfying and not just a long time. And, I think that a lot of these sort of Silicon Valley bros that tell you to go in the gym and pump protein are not doing us a service in that.
And it's fine. But listen, 3 years ago when we decided to look at the universe of longevity, and because I had met Chris, my partner, Sujay Jaswan. So Sujay, who's half my age, twice as smart as me. I'm not kidding.
Love that.
He got so excited. He's been interested in this area. His wife is a fertility doctor. So he's been around the area and has been of interest to him for a very long time. And I met Chris, and they then sort of partnered up with one another and started really kind of thinking about this as an area of opportunity for us as investors to do something that would be new. So we went and we market mapped pretty much everything going on out there in the world today in terms of longevity. And we discovered what you discovered a very long time ago is 95% of it's snake oil. 5% of it is actually good people, I think, doing, smart work.
Offer some promise.
I would give it more credit than you probably would, but you've been at it a couple of more decades than me. I'm a little bit more of the glass full guy. What we found to be pretty uniform in that area is that, and it's what really was the ultimate sort of catalyst for us, is that you have people who know something about everything, but they know everything about not very much. And our theory was we want to go and find the people that know everything about something specific in this area and then bring them together like a team, right? Think of them as a football team here in which we've got guards and tackles and,
quarterbacks,
punters and quarterbacks. We want a team on the field. And the thing that got them excited about it is they then would actually be able to collaborate with one another because all of these researchers that he's rattling off here, each one is in their little silo and doing brilliant work in their silo, but seeing what is the impact on one and the other.
It's synergistic.
There you go. Because it is, even what they're doing is those 34 categories, actually every one impacts the others. And so what we're doing is giving all of them this insight into all of the data around each one of these domains. And so they can actually now work in tandem with one another. And that's part of what got them excited about it is that, they, as I say, they've all been off in their research labs, most of them for multiple decades. They have no idea, how does your brain function, impacting, your metabolic.
And we're now finding the same things that drive type 2 diabetes, drive cardiovascular disease, drive dementia. And if you're just sitting in your silo the whole time, you're not maximizing.
Again, so remember, you're saying disease, and we're actually talking about health. Now, these things do cross paths on us, so not to say that they're not.
Two sides of the same coin, right?
Well, yes, but we're not, when you talk about heart disease or cancer or, Alzheimer's, we're not researching those. And we are not.
Well, look, I think it's about, we are researching how to prevent those, right? Yes. And I think the prevention of those is what ultimately gives us the opportunity to live longer. But you're right, like the gap between health span and lifespan is way too big now. There's 12-ish years on average, about 20% of someone's life.
So
it's crazy.
Your WndrHLTH, is it the outcome mostly is this body of knowledge that is dispersed through sort of IP that is available or license it out, or is it
will be? So
or is it mostly you have a team of clients who come in and you look after them, you help them prevent disease? What's the business model?
So right now we are bringing together all these scientists, and we are effectively a living lab. So we have a very small number of people that we're running through this N of 1 study. So we're taking all of these different verticals, testing for them, and then intervening, aggregating that information to understand what would be gold standard for that person based on their biology, genetics, and preferences. And ultimately, that's going to give us, we're going to be able to observe trends across these verticals. And that's why the scientists are so ambitious to be involved. This is expensive study for them to run.
So I'm a little slow-witted. If I come in...
No, you're not. You're not at all.
if I come in as a client, what do I do? Like, what's the process that you take me through to expose me to these experts and keep me healthy?
Yeah, so once we've done traditional medical onboarding, we understand any contraindications, medical history, and so on, we get you in for a 2-day testing experience. So this is 2 3-hour sessions, so it's 6 hours in total. And we have to obviously sequence that very specifically to remove any interference effect, but the outcome there, and we're testing across all of these different verticals. And the outcome there is we get a very deep, granular set of data about your biology, your genetics. Okay, we can then de-anonymize that and then send that out to the specific scientists themselves. So we can get their interpretation for Dan or member X. What is the low-hanging fruit? What are the red flags, areas of concern? What's already optimal that we can then park? And then we aggregate that back, and our clinical team do a great job of this, aggregate that into an ongoing roadmap. And so there's two important factors here. One is, with all that data, we have to be extremely careful not to overwhelm, right? What we don't want to do is add time to someone's day. So we want to be able to get very specific so we can get you the highest possible return on your time and energy. And without that data, we are guessing, right? Without that data, we could be wasting minutes, hours a day, right? And so we should get very, very specific, deep phenotyping, understand specifically for you how we can move the needle, and then trend all those metrics upwards.
And track you over a period of years. So this is not just one and done. Once a year, you come in for a deep dive, and there are these 1,400 metrics. The areas that reveal themselves out of the box of places that need attention or areas of weakness, they'll give you a set of programs that you can start to address those things. Do a sort of intermediate, much smaller tests, much of which can actually be done remotely 3 times over the next 9 months. And then a year later, come back in and now do a full test, because seeing where you are and where you were, where you are, where you're going is the only way to do this. It's not like you can just come in, wave your magic wand, and it's all going to be fine. It doesn't work that way.
Even the premium package?
No, you could do this for you. Yeah, the soupy doopy version. You're looking for your magic pill again there, Dan. I know you're trying to find that fountain of youth. We have not discovered it. Sorry.
How does this differ from, Tony Robbins and Peter Diamandis, and there's a number of other, well, first of all, you have me sold on your, the aggregation of these 34 areas and these top experts. I love that. Is the process, though, much different than it is for any sort of concierge longevity clinic?
Well, the answer is no and absolutely.
Oh, good answer.
Yeah.
The answer is no. I'm sure they all do their tests and probably take many of these measures. I will say at least half of the testing that we do is unique and doesn't exist anywhere else in the world, because these scientists have not yet put these out into the world. You can't find them anywhere else. So probably half of it is proprietary still, because it's new. But the difference here is I think, and again, this is our success isn't dependent upon what anybody else is doing. It's only dependent on how well we do what we're doing. But if you ask me, what do I think it differentiates from most of these other legit organizations out there, is that ours is 100% science-based, and it's based on the most expert research scientists in these fields. This doesn't exist anywhere else. There's not, if you want to get into the issues around sleep and sleep patterns and where you have deficiencies in this and how you can be more effective at your sleep in it, we have the 3 leading research scientists in the world who are going to tell you that. Now that I don't think you get anywhere else.
I find that refreshing. And I would be my eyes would be rolling a little bit if you're talking about stem cells or rapamycin.
Oh, we can do that too.
So I think an important
we don't, but we could.
an important thing to mention here, right, is that I think the difference for us is that we have no flag in the sand, right? We lean entirely on the scientists. They pick the tests, the protocols, the interventions, the hardware. We have picked nothing in there. So we're leaning entirely on the evidence. And we're so confident in that we actually allow the members to have consultations one-to-one with any of the scientists, right? And so they can actually hear it straight from them, what is happening right now in that area of research. And I don't believe that is happening elsewhere.
So
the other piece is that we discussed this off air, that we can write the most perfectly prescribed granular program for someone based in the most cutting edge science. If they don't stick to it, it doesn't work. Right. And so there is some habit science involved here. There's a bunch of metrics that we're not testing for with depth inside a lab: happiness, joy, faith, hope, human connection, these all make a difference, right? They're really significant needle movers for how long and healthy you live. And so I think the thing that we do very well is, one, we ground everything in the science, but then we weave it into your life in a way that doesn't suck the fun out of it, in a way that removes friction and allows you to adhere to the plan. And
can you give me an example of that?
Of what? Removing friction?
Removing the friction and doesn't remove the fun? Yeah.
So I think without granular data on, let's say physiology, your ability to build lean tissue or improve heart and lung function, if you're not getting granular data, then you're probably doing much, much more than you need to. So say, for example, we do, like Jeffrey's a great example here. We do this.
I'm the research primate around this. I just thought through telling you, I spent 100 minutes.
You should put that on your card.
Research primate.
Yeah.
No, I was, by the way, I was guinea pig 1.
I like primate.
So when Jeffrey came in, he actually said to us very specifically, I'll do this, but you cannot add 1 minute to my day, right? And so everything we did was to sort of reverse engineer the program to fit into his life in a way that he could keep doing it.
So Dan, I've been working out since I was 30 years old. And I don't know whether you look at, so I'm 94. So
you're looking sad. I thought it was because you're reading the Blue Zone.
Yeah, so it's working pretty good. Right? No, so
I'm going to ask you about that next, by the way.
Okay, so so I have allocated. I'm a time allocator. I'm very, very
regimented.
I really care about my time, right? I think investment of time to me is like the most valuable resource that I have. And so I said to them 2 things. One, you're not going to turn me into a rice-eating monk. I'm a foodie. And I want to, that part of my happiness is actually to be able to eat well, not eat well, eat badly. I'll give you the 3, can I give you the 3 most important food groups to me?
Yes.
Crunchy, crispy, and fried.
That's the tagline: crunchy, crispy, and fried.
Yeah.
So the title of the podcast.
You're giving too many snippets that they could cut into some social media posts.
I don't care. So, but I've allocated as over the years, and as I said, I've been exercising in gym and exercising in gym since I was in my 30s, and very regimented about it. I said I cannot allocate another 5 minutes a day. Don't give me 3 more exercises to do. What you can do is take my program and you can pull it apart. You can't touch my reading because, as I said to you, that cardio for me is my knowledge time. I happen to be on a bike, but really what I'm doing is that I'm getting I'm reading for that and with a voracious appetite and retention. My body doesn't even know I'm on a bike.
That's so amazing.
Okay. So I say to them, okay, the rest of that time is yours. You guys decide, do you want to change my exercises? Do you want to increase the weights, lower the reps, whatever? They found some things in terms of my physiology where I have some weak points in this that I had no idea that surprised me in it. And they said, well, you got to start to address those things. Like my posture has been bothering. Like I don't think my posture is as good as it used to be. And
feel free to work on that as we speak here.
I did. When I said it to you, you saw me put my shoulders back into the chair, right? Because we're all sitting like this.
Yeah, looking at our screens.
Right. So
what else have you reallocated?
But but just talk about the outcome of changing a handful of things. When I say a handful, I mean maybe 4 things in my exercise program, and talk about what happened out of that.
So after, I think it was a 90-day retest we did with you, you dropped 7 pounds of fat, put on 2 pounds of lean tissue, improved balance by 17%.
At 74 years old.
Yeah.
Like if you actually said that to someone,
that's
impressive. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm telling you, I didn't do hardly anything, in my opinion. And to me, that's what's so critical about this is changing.
Tell us what you did.
Changing human habits is the hardest thing in the world.
It's damn near, it fails for almost all people all the time. But what did you do, Jeffrey, that
they literally changed some of the exercises, the types of weights, the types of lifting I was doing, the amount of reps that I was doing. So there was just a rebalancing of it. And I went from a program in which I was doing 3 days of program and then repeating it. Right now it's 4 days of program, and and then I rinse and repeat in this. And so it changed up the interior of that time.
Yes.
And produced a kind of startling result.
So you told me you on a stationary bike 100 minutes a day during what you're reading, and then you're also lifting weights a few times during the week. How much time?
Every day. Every day.
You lift weights every day. How much time?
Just about 40 minutes or so.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And do you remember one or two of the things they told you that you're doing different during your weightlifting time?
Yes. So the most specific thing is that my core and my balance was actually suboptimal, which I was surprised since I spent so much time on the bike. I just thought I had such strength in that.
Right.
And it was not. I should let him talk about it because he's more objective and knowledgeable in it. But there's some crazy statistic about over age 65, you take a fall, you break something, you're done.
40% mortality.
Yeah, within 12 months as well.
So they looked at my core and just said, you have some real weaknesses in those areas in it, and we're going to start having you do Goblats and this and that, and the change, and
See, I think this is, you guys are underselling this. I think this is a bigger insight than you know, because we're sort of told to get X number of minutes of cardio and X number of minutes of strength. But what you're telling me is what you do during that time is crucially important. How many reps or how
changed me?
Yes,
I mean when you just say I lost 7 pounds of fat and gained 2 pounds of
maybe
muscle.
some of you can see Jeff on YouTube, but he is incredibly fit. He exudes energy. 74, sharp, and he famously drinks a lot of Diet Coke, or used to. Once about a dozen a day, and you're still alive. And his food groups are crunchy and crispy.
That's a Blue Zone cheat that you weren't aware of. But
damn, I
50 years of Diet Coke has just made me.
I just want to take just an interstitial here because you both look really healthy, and at the end of the day, I'm sure by osmosis you've learned from these 34 scientists some things that you apply in your own life. But what else is part of your longevity regimen? I'll start with you, Jeff, and then Chris.
I have made a slight adjustment in my diet, in that my A1C was a bit higher than it should be, but it wasn't in a
metric of diabetes.
But it wasn't in a danger zone, particularly given how much exercise I do, specifically how much cardio I do. And so I have best doctors in the world at UCLA, and every year I'm in there, and they have said, listen, it's not optimal, but we can't say to you, give up your happiness, because as I said to you, I'm a foodie, so bread, pizza, pasta. Never met a dessert I didn't fall in love with. Right?
Was your wife jealous?
So, and they'll tell you, you go to dinner with me, they're getting every dessert on the menu.
Every dish.
Every day. Like, okay. So again, the experts in this area, the nutritionists who saw my data said, we look at this slightly differently. Yes, your A1C today, it's okay. It's kind of at the ceiling of where it should be. But based on our research that we have right now today, we will tell you if you stay the course with this, it's a little bit like compounding. You're going to be okay. And then suddenly at about 84 or 5 years old, you're either pre-diabetic or diabetic. And when that happens, you're going to be on a severe diet.
Yeah.
And you're going to have pretty serious medications that you're going to take.
So what did you change?
The alternative to that is if you make a small adjustment now and start to actually modify your sugar and how much of it you do, you'll never have this issue. And guess what? 6 months later, my A1C is actually, so instead of having dessert every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's 4 days a week, right? And I pick and choose.
Oh, just small, okay.
And, they put a glucose monitor on me. I'm wearing it now, and I look at it, and I pay attention. I'm not obsessed with it, and I don't let it run my life, but it's a great aid. And once again, with a small adjustment, here. And you start to find out things that I don't know why, it's a crazy thing, but somehow or another, if I eat blueberries, and yogurt, my spikes, right? Okay.
Knew?
Now, the other thing is, if I eat dark chocolate and even chocolate on vanilla ice cream, I'm good.
No way. Who knew? Forget the strawberries, bring on the chocolate sundae.
But that's the point, is every human being
Yeah,
has these unique things in terms of how we ingest these things and how they impact us. So what I've done is I've discovered things that keep me happy and don't kill me.
As a National Geographic explorer, I spend most of my life on the road. I like to say my main residence is a backpack, but actually I also have a real home. But it doesn't have to be empty while I'm away. And because I'm not there most of the time, I usually host on Airbnb while I'm away. Next month, in fact, I'm taking a team of scientists to Sardinia, where we found a new blue zone. And while I'm away, my home will be on Airbnb because it makes sense. And the income I make off of that covers most of my expenses. So I'm a big fan of Airbnb and how it solves a big corner of my little universe. Your home might be worth more than you think. Find out how much at airbnb.com/host. I've always said that one of the most counterintuitive keys to longevity is purpose. We know from long-term studies that people who can articulate their sense of purpose live about 8 years longer than people who can't. So this podcast is sponsored by Squarespace, a company that believes in helping you bring purpose to your life. In the Blue Zone's purpose, or ikigai, is the central part of daily life. It's what gets people out of bed in the morning. For those of you who have a purpose and want to share it, whether it's a blog, it's about gardening, or it's a blog about business or selling your art, Squarespace makes it simple to do. With their amazing cutting-edge design tools, you have total control over your site's design without ever touching a line of code. And for those of you with products to sell, Squarespace's powerful e-commerce tools give you everything you need to grow your business, from managing inventory to secure checkouts. It takes the stress out of building an online presence, leaving you with more time for what truly matters, and that's purpose. So if you're ready to share your gifts with the world, go to squarespace.com/livebetter for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use the offer code LIVEBETTER to save 10% off of your first website or domain. This is population insights, which is not always applicable to individuals, but let's just say. So we know the group of people who can identify their sense of purpose, who can articulate it, live about 8 years longer than people who are rudderless in life.
I'll give you mine.
That's what I was building to here.
Well, I'll cut you off.
Cut me off. Save time, damn it.
So mine is actually never let your memories be greater than your dreams.
Oh, I love that. Never let your memories be greater than your dreams.
So every day I get up and I'm blessed with the fact that I'm never, ever looking in the rearview mirror, ever. Like literally, unless you start asking me questions about something out of my past, I don't wake up and think, oh, The Lion King, oh, Shrek, oh, whatever these things are. They're great, but they're not relevant to me. And what I am doing today, being here right now with you, I was looking forward. I'm excited to be doing this.
Pressure's on.
Well, no, you've spent decades building this knowledge and this information, and the stuff that you've done is incredible. It's inspiring. And so to come and be able to talk with you about a field of which you are an expert, and I am a research primate who knows nothing, is a privilege. Literally.
Thank you very much. First of all, it's an honor to hear that, but it's a privilege to be with you, and a privilege to be with you, Chris.
Thank you.
What's your dream right now?
That Chris, again, remember.
So this is the main thing. Don't you do like 8,000 things? I looked through all
80. But this is our baby. We started this company in partnership with Chris 6 months ago. It's very new. And its ambition is very, very high. And it's not to have, we make no money running this lab and having, wealthy people come through who can afford to pay for it. What they're paying for is the research and our ability to actually learn out of this things that will become applicable widely. Our interests are developing, whether it's software, hardware, or just simply habits that can be popularized and out to tens and tens of millions of people in this. And so, as I said, we're at the foundation part of this in it. We're just starting to build this up, but this is a 10-year project. It's not a 10-month.
I love it. It's the dream to actually help people live longer.
Absolutely.
I think if we can democratize some of these things, then ultimately we can move the needle for the nation.
It sounds like you're trying to do that. I love the idea that this is generating insights that will be available to the general public. Because at a certain point, you make your money, and more money doesn't necessarily make you happier, but it's when you move the needle on the human.
Well, the difference is all those other places that you talked about, those various
blue zones.
No. The labs and this.
Oh yeah.
And the down in Miami where you talked about these people paying $100,000 a year and blah blah blah, whatever those things are. Those are for-profit businesses. They were built on the foundation of every person that comes through there creates some kind of return on investment and blah blah blah. They're businesses. I'm not being critical, by the way. Fair enough, and I'm sure they're doing a lot of good for their clients. Otherwise, they'll go out of business, right? Ours is to actually have the capital to build out these products, the research, the knowledge, and then actually build products out of it, as opposed to having a concierge longevity,
clinic.
Yeah.
I'd like to offer you an insight from as you start this, just to something to kind of consider. So when you go to the parts of the world where people are actually living longer, they never try. In fact, most of the time they have no idea how they've made it to it. You ask them, well, I smoke cigars or I eat 2 eggs and I hate men or whatever. But it's always
what a combo. I smoke cigars. I hate
Who is this person?
And that's just the women
and eggs.
But the interesting insight is the longevity always seems to be the product of an environment. In other words, the ecosystem in which they live is somehow engineering their unconscious decisions. They're not, you're probably four standard deviations from the norm in your discipline and your ability to time manage, et cetera. But most human beings, you put them on a diet, you put 100 people on a diet, within about 7 months, you've lost 90% of them. And within 2 years, you've lost 97%.
I ate a lot of French fries for lunch today. So
yeah. And so even if we convinced you of a certain diet, same with exercise programs. If you look at the recidivism curves of people who join a gym and show up, the vast majority are gone by September, within a year. Even supplements, even if you found the pill guaranteed to reverse we wouldn't take it for long enough to make a difference. Because remember, when it comes to longevity, if it's not something we're doing every single day for decades or a lifetime, it doesn't matter. You could do the absolute perfect thing all month long. Absolute perfect. You guys, 34, the top experts in the world, we spent 10 years and this is the exact thing you need to do. And you do it for a month. It has zero impact on whether or not you're alive in 2035 or how vital you are. So the products I submit to you should be products that shape our surroundings and influence our unconsciously how we sleep, unconscious decisions on how we eat moment to moment, unconsciously how we socialize, how we engage with the world, how we eat. And I'm just, you're spending, many, many millions of dollars to do that. I just hate to see the same old set of great insight. Here's what you should do, but actually getting people to do them. That's the hard thing.
One pushback I'd have there, Dan, is that, there are a bunch of things that we can do and do right now that can improve the way that you feel, perform, look acutely in the moment. So take that month that you said where you were doing all the right things. Yeah. It's still worth doing because you feel better in the moment, right? And that's what we're trying to do as well. This isn't about just adding years to your life. It's adding life to your years, right? we're also talking about
We'll measure that.
what we know. We can measure that. We do measure that, and you're also talking about what we know today, right? And so there is no silver bullet as it stands, but no one knows whether that's coming, right? And some of the emerging technologies and science that we're seeing today are wild.
I agree with you.
And it is coming. Whether it's in 20 years' time or 50 years' time or in 1 year time, things will emerge that we can democratize and scale and make more affordable that will dramatically improve the quality of people's lives. And so right now, we can only lean on the evidence we have, but we've all got a bridge to cross, right? And if we can cross that bridge in good health, maybe we'll be around to benefit from some of these things.
By the way, what I said about shaping your environment for your unconscious decision wasn't an or to what you're doing. It was an and.
Yeah,
it was a...
Well, I think we can, it's a great question. How do we create long-term sustainable lifestyle change? That's what we all need, really, because whether these things are coming or not, that's what we need to cross this bridge in good health, right? And so, things... we have the habit scientists and the emotional health and resilience and stress scientists to help build this type of program. So part of what we're doing is establishing how do we make these things more sticky? How do we make them higher return on your time? Like, how do we get a better result with less effort? Because ultimately that's what we want, right? And I'm very different to Jeffrey in the way that I approach this. I'm doing 20 minutes a day instead of 2 hours a day. Does that make him right and me wrong? I don't think so.
Yes. You better get after it.
No. Well, look. Here's the thing. Let's take cognition. It's a great example. We now know we can start protecting against cognitive decline 30 years in advance of symptoms. This is new science. We did not know this until recently. So I would argue that 6-minute, 2-3 minutes a week, 2-3 minute sessions twice a week for your cognitive protection, everyone should be doing. Right? And think about this like any good financial investment. The earlier we start contributing to the pot, the more we start benefiting from that compounding that Jeffrey mentioned. So the thing I would, a big takeaway for the audience, I would say is, regardless of your age, the best time to start something like this was 20 years ago. The second best time is today, right? But I think, if we look at the science as a whole, as it stands, we have tremendous research evidence to show that if we major in these majors, exercise, nutrition, sleep, stress management, human connection, that we can get a tremendous return on our time, right? So that regardless of what's coming with any of this emerging science and research, do everything you can to major in the majors right now.
Very good advice. On the way in, we were talking about happiness and how important that is. I mean, first of all, it doesn't, what good is it to live 100 years if you're miserable the whole time? So there's some research that shows that if you can manage your life to get in the top 20% of the happiest people, it's worth about 6 years of life expectancy over being in the bottom 20%. So one strategy for longevity is actually happiness. And I'm wondering if either of you have any insights on how to improve your happiness. And this is maybe from your personal life, or it can be from your work life, or it can be from what you've learned from these 34 scientists.
I would say for me, I've come to understand and value partnership. I think partnership may be one of the most valuable things one can build around your life. And when I say partnership, I mean partnership with the people that you work with, partnership with the people you hang out with, friends, partnership with a mate. I've been married 50 years in Hollywood.
Does she know that?
I'm not sure. But I've had
That's a great insight.
I have great partners everywhere. I told you about my partner in business. He's a partner
Chris.
in business. And, and this guy, Sujay, I mentioned to you, half my age and twice as smart. I think having great people around you that make you happy, that inspire you, that challenge you, that love you is, you can't say priceless.
That is a really great insight. What are the fundamentals of a good partnership?
Well, the secret to a 50-year marriage is, and so this is invaluable advice I'm going to give you. All right? 2 words. Yes, dear. It works every time.
Yes, dear.
It's never failed me, ever. Now, and by the way,
does that work with your business partners? Yeah.
No.
No.
He never says it.
I love that. But I mean, I imagine keeping your word. I mean, what?
Yeah,
I mean,
all of those things.
You've created these, but it's one of these things that you're absolutely right. But for those of us who don't have great partnerships, it's like, well, how do you pick a partner, and how do you maintain it, and what's the definition of a good partner and a bad partner?
Well, again, I don't. There's no pill that you get to take.
Right. Okay, yeah. But no, it's direct. Yes, good partnerships. And how about you, Chris? What's
for happiness?
You seem like a really happy guy, by the way. You kind of come in with a big smile and bouncing.
I think leaning into failure, I think is a like not expecting to go through your life without any kind of setbacks, and then actually like approaching failure as failing forward has been something in my life that I don't imagine anyone, and we get to spend time with the most successful, revered, influential business people, founders, CEOs on earth. I can't name one of them that hasn't failed forward. And at the time, it feels catastrophic if you fail at a big project or you have this big setback. But these, you have to get these scars in order to become the person you need to be to succeed. And I think that's one thing I've learned from spending so much time with Jeffrey and Sujay and a bunch of our members. And so I think that's leaning into the hard times is one thing. I think find something that you love, become brilliant at it, and then do more of it. I think would be my
There you go. I like that one. And then if you fail, learn from that.
Yeah, and just keep failing forward.
I want to be cognizant of your time. I have 2 more things. We give extra points for vulnerability here. So I want to ask you each a question. And the more vulnerable you are, the better. And the question is this. Tell me about the lowest point in your life. And you've won all the Academy Awards for the good things you've done, and built multi-million-dollar companies, and you shaped the really culture for 2 generations. And what about failure? Did you have something where you failed and just thought?
Yeah, many times.
And what did you learn from that? Like the worst?
Those are the things that make you stronger. You learn more from your mistakes than you do from your successes, always. And that's been true across all the content that I've made over the years. I learned more for the movies and TV shows and animated things that failed than I did from the successes. And so,
like, what's the lowest moment?
Well, probably the lowest moment for me, at least in a very public way, was when I was fired at Disney. At the height of my success in 1994, everything was 10 out of 10. Lion King, Beauty and the Beast on Broadway, Home Improvement TV show. I could go on and on about all of these things that were sort of in my domain, and I got fired.
Doesn't make sense, does it?
No, it doesn't make sense in it. So it's Shakespearean. So you got to go to Shakespeare to figure out why and how. But in any event, it was difficult. It was a very both humbling and humiliating time because it was done unceremoniously. I mean, it was like, get out of here. It was a kick in the butt onto the street from this sort of pinnacle of, running the Walt Disney Studios. So the equivalent of a really, really ugly, nasty personal divorce, right? That's the only thing I could think of that I've seen that would sort of maybe be some relatable parallel thing. And and all I can tell you is that 8 days later, I announced a partnership with David Geffen and Steven Spielberg, and we started DreamWorks. So
a whole 8 days of mourning.
8 days on my butt.
So what goes on in that 8 days that creates this phoenix from the flame?
I told you already. I don't look back. Don't look back. And I look back in learning from it, but I didn't mourn a moment about it. I was like, okay, one door closes and another one opens, and I'm not gonna be captive to something in my past. I'm gonna focus on what's in front of me, and look to what I can do. Great. I had a failure maybe 5 years ago. I had this crazy idea about a new form of short form content. It's called Quibi. Raised an incredible amount of money, launched this thing, and in weeks, it was a disaster. It was a failure. And I owned it, right? Like they gave me everything I needed to take a moonshot, and it didn't work. And I always felt it was my failure. It wasn't anybody else's. There were other people that came along for the ride, but I don't blame anybody for anything about it. I own it. I've gotten way, way, way too much credit for the successes in my career, in which case I felt be honorable and own your failure. So if you get more credit than you deserve in your successes, you probably ought to
take the credit for
over. Yeah.
And that last failure, did it humble you? Did it educate you?
Yes, of course. I learned many things from it, and just as a businessman and an entrepreneur and as a storyteller, because I was trying to create a new form of storytelling. And the answer is, of course, I learned many, many things from it, including about myself, in terms of how I managed failure, right? And I was ambitious to manage failure generously, right? And
what does that mean?
I owned it. That was all. It's just,
I love it.
In life, I'm sure if you go back to your things, usually it's like somebody else did this, right?
That's what the big thing, because a lot of people don't own their failure. It's somebody else's fault.
Yeah, no, this is nobody else. This is me. But again, my job in my careers, and I say careers because I've had multiple careers, including the career today. I'm if they make the baseball analogy, I have one lane that I'm pretty good in, which is I'm a home run hitter, right? I'm the guy, ninth inning, 2 outs, bases loaded.
Send up Jeffy.
You're down by 3. What are you going to do? Call me in. And because I love swinging for the fence. That's my happy place, right? And the things that I have done have usually been those types of things. Now, by the way, nobody bats 1,000.
Yeah.
Right? Babe Ruth. I don't care, pick whoever you want to. No one bats 1,000, including moi. So, but if you don't swing for the fence, if you don't run with the ball, if you don't kick it, if you don't shoot it, you don't score. If you can't score, you cannot win by playing defense. There's no sport in the world that you can win.
This is one of the best things about working with Jeffrey, by the way, is that he's always challenging you to think bigger, right? So I'll come to him with the projects and he's like, why not one step above it? Why not bigger? Like, we should be thinking about, legacy business, talking in terms of decades rather than years. And that's been the biggest thing I've learned from him. Think bigger always.
And do you think this success, are you smarter than most, or do you work harder than most, or is it simply this really keen insight that you just aim higher than most?
He definitely works harder than most, by the way.
You have no idea. Who is good at looking at the mirror and actually being able to see what is there?
Isn't it a Shrek thing in there?
Yeah, I'm not, I don't know. I'm no good at self-analysis. It's not my lane.
Yeah, no, but I mean, those were actually great insight. And with that, gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Fantastic.
Appreciate it.
We have, where's those shirts? Because you guys were vulnerable.
Live long and prosper.
No. We give you
extra points for vulnerability. Excellent.
You guys are so wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Can't wait to
Thank you
wear
for
it.
your work.